Hello folks, in this tutorial we will look at the JavaFX architecture and it's not that complicated basically. Let's move from the left to the right. So basically whatever public API calls that we make for scene graph, CSS, UI controls, all these go to a quantum toolkit. Okay, so quantum toolkit is basically a connection between the public API calls and the pipelines for the graphic rendering, which is the Prism and the Glass windowing kit. So basically, that is kind of like a glue, which is connecting the JavaFX layer to the Prism and Glass windowing toolkit. Now, what is the Prism? So Prism is a graphics pipeline. What it does is it does the rendering job of showing the scene, the JavaFX scene on the monitor. Now, we won't go into too much detail. So that is the main purpose. And glass windowing toolkit basically is the connection between the program, the JavaFX program, and the operating system. So it basically does the job of managing the windows, the timers, the surface rendering, etc. So it's a very important component. Now, basically, uh, apart from this, let's look at what are the threads which are executing for a JavaFX environment. So first we have a JavaFX application thread. So that is basically the thread in which your application is running. Just like for any Java program, there's a thread which is running. Okay, and then basically we have a Prism render thread. So this thread handles the rendering, which is separate from the event dispatcher. Okay, so that is very important. And then there is a media thread which is running in the background and it synchronizes the latest frames through the scene graph by using the JavaFX application thread. So these are the key threads which are running in the environment. There is another very important concept called pulse. Okay, so pulse is basically an event that indicates to the scene graph that it is time to synchronize the state of the elements on the scene graph with Prism. Okay, so basically this is the concept which is kind of refreshing your screen with the latest state of the scene graph. So this is actually running at 60 frames per second so that you can get a smooth animation. So this is very important. So whenever this pulse is fired continuously, the state of the elements on the scene graph is synchronized down to the rendering layer, which is Prism. Okay, so these are the key things. Okay, now if we move to the right, we can see the application structure, which is basically the elements which are used in the JavaFX application. So as it is given in the screen, you can use a theater metaphor for understanding this particular concept. So first is the stage, which is the main container. Okay, and within the stage, we have one or multiple scenes. Okay, and scene is basically the container where you put your different elements like buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, etc. Okay, so that is where you build your screen, the layout of the screen. Okay, and so you can have both 2D and 3D transformations. Now, the root node, so every scene graph has got a root node. Okay, that is always going to be there. And in the root node, you will have branch nodes. Okay, so the branch nodes are basically again like a set of nodes, like, and these nodes are called leaf nodes. So you can consider a branch node as a parent which has got a set of leaf nodes. Leaf nodes are nothing but buttons, text, and shapes, which we just discussed. Also, the branch node can also directly be a button or shape. Okay, so that's also another possibility. Next, let's go to the right and we can see the design pattern that is being used. And this is a very familiar design pattern, which is MVC, model view controller, and this is followed by the FX environment. So the model is nothing but the business logic and the data, okay? And the view is nothing but the UI layout that we built for the JavaFX application. This is nothing but the FFML. Okay, so that is where you build your screen. Okay, and finally you have a controller which is actually processing the user inputs that we give on the view. So suppose there is a button click, then that button click action will be the logic will be put in the controller, and that is how you process the events. So that is all for this tutorial, and we will continue with the next tutorial. Please give a like and subscribe if you like this video. Thank you.